Chapter 2 Halloween. Vlad turned to the side, admiring his image in the mirror with a smirk. Henry was going to lose it when he saw Vlad's costume. They hadn't discussed what they were dressing up as, but the pathetic black nylon cape and plastic fangs that Vlad had picked up at the stop and shop last weekend were sure to be the running gag of the evening between them. He brushed his black hair from his eyes and slipped the plastic teeth into his mouth. They fit perfectly over his own fangs, which were protruding slightly despite his large dinner. Not an hour before Aunt Nellie had worn two sizable sticks until the blood dripped from the raw meat. He had restrained himself from picking up the sticks with his bare hands and ripping into them, but only because Aunt Nellie insisted on manners, so even though it agonized him to do so. He took his time cutting the sticks into medium-sized bites and sucking the juices into his hungry mouth before dropping the dry, tasteless meat onto his plate. He pulled he pulled the fake teeth out of his mouth and examined the sharp points of his fangs. Oh, Nelly, you'd better get a snack pack ready. But you just ate, came a little lilting voice from the bottom of the stairs. Oh, well, better safe than sorry, I suppose. What time will Henry be here? Any minute. Satisfied with his costume, Vlad turned from the mirror. The old floorboards creaked beneath his sneakers. He kissed his fingers and pressed them to the frame on his dresser. In the photo, his mother was poised on the edge of an old Victorian chaise, with his father standing behind her, his pale hands on her shoulders. They were smiling at the camera, and Vlad found himself smiling back at them. He opened the top drawer and stuffed $10 from his secret box into his pocket. Parting with Henry had taught him one thing about above all else: be prepared. Vlad left his bedroom and made his way down the stairs. Aunt Nellie stood at the bottom, holding up a plastic container covered with saran wrap. He could see the deep red slushy contents through the wrap and licked his lips. Did you microwave it? It's better warm. It's warm enough. She handed it to him and widened her eyes in disgust as he bit through the serum wrap and slurped. Use a spoon, you'll get it all over the rug, and I just had it cleaned between that rug and your t-shirts. The dry cleaner thinks we're either accident prone or an poor ex murderers. And take it easy on the snack bags tonight, Mr. Midnight Fitter. There are only two left. I'd better bring some more blood bags from the hospital tonight and fix up enough for the rest of the week. Could you get O positive this time? That's my favorite. She nodded and he smiled, brushing past her to the kitchen. He was spooning a big sweet glove of half-frozen blood into his mouth when the doorbell rang. With a hurried solo, he dropped the empty container into the biohazard box beneath the sink and popped the plastic fangs over his shrinking canines. With careful steps, he snuck over to the wall just to the right of the archway and peeked over at the front door where his aunt was greeting Henry. With a hug, Vlad jumped out from behind the separating wall and he held his zip cape out with both hands. I want to suck your blood. Henry doubled over, roaring with laughter. When he straightened, he slapped Vlad on the shoulder. That's a sweet costume. Check me out. You'll just die. Henry placed his fist on his hips in a pseudo Superman pose, and when he turned his head, Blad's jaw dropped at the sight of two small holes on Henry's neck. No way! He stepped closer to inspect Henry's bite marks. They were flawless. Blad had one actual vampire on a human before, and Henry's handiwork was very close to the real thing. What did he use? Sully putty and raspberry jam. Seedless? The can't have seeds in my wound might get infected. Aunt Nellie regarded Blad with a concerned glance over the top of her glasses. Did you get enough to eat? Blad nodded, stuffed a tube of his sunscreen into his pocket, and opened the door. At midnight. Party's over at midnight. Nellie held out her hand. You won't need that. I want you home by 11. 11 at times. Nellie could be ridiculously overprotective. Blad rolled his eyes and dug the tube back out, slapping it into Nellie's hand. But no one else will be leaving early. And besides, at midnight there's supposed to be some big surprise. Nellie looked at Henry for confirmation. He nodded enthusiastically. We can't miss it. Well, she bit her lip in contemplation, and after what seemed like an eternity, she sighed. All right, but stick together, and if you get hungry, give me a call on my cell. I'll be at Dave's until late. Henry nursed Blad with his elbow. Matthew called me earlier, said Meredith will be there. Blad shot him. I looked at, screamed, shut up, and they pounded out the door. Vampire and victim, Nellie called after. Careful, boys. Other than the fake wound, Henry was dressed as he normally was. With a pair of ratty-looking sneakers on his feet, he gave Blad a sly glance. Big thing at midnight, huh? Blad shrugged and adjusted the cape around his shoulders. I'm a creature of the night, for God's sake. And she wants me home by 11. I don't think so. Why doesn't she just follow me to the party and kiss me goodbye? Hey, don't knock it. If it weren't for Nellie, you would never get kissed. Blad slowed his steps. Like you've got room to talk. I've kissed plenty of girls. I'm not talking about your mom, Dork. They turned down. And at the end of the street, Blad could see cars stopping in front of Matthew's house. A blur of people moved from vehicle to house. Blad felt a twinge of nervousness settle into his muscles. The headlights from one of the cars that had been in front of Matthew's house turned toward them, blinding Blad temporarily. Henry had shoved his hands into his front pockets and was walking with his attention keenly focused on the sidewalk. Neither am I. I'm talking about girls like Carrie Anderson and Stephanie Brown. Stephanie will kiss anyone. Yeah, I know. Henry's smile returned. Her sister is cute, though. Plaid raised an eyebrow, half chuckling. Dude, that's gross. He's turned 12. So? Henry grinned broadly. So he'll be 14 in like 2 months. It's gross. Plaid shook his head and looked down at his right shoe where his toe was poking through a tear. Impossibly, Henry's grin broadened. She's nice. Whether or not a girl will kiss you isn't a measure of how nice she is. Ahead, Plaid could see the hint of a soft blue sweater and angel wings disappearing into Matthew's front door. Meredith had overheard her in third period yesterday gushing over what she planned to wear. It was that moment that he had decided to accept the invitation to the party, last minute or not. So, what is Einstein? Vlad stopped in his tracks. Henry had stopped walking as well and tilted his head with a curious gleam, gleam in his eye. Vlad nodded and said, "Girls that make out in the back of the band room are nice." I never told you it was the band room. Band room. Henry furrowed his brow and grabbed Vlad's shoulder for a second, lowering his voice so eavesdroppers couldn't hear. Dude, don't do that freaking mind reading stuff. I hate that. Vlad shrugged and kept walking. Henry nursed Vlad. Henry nursed Vlad with elbow and gestured to a group of three trick or treaters in front of them with a nod. Want some candy? I shouldn't. Nelly is still ticked about last year. Vlad shoved his hands in pockets and looked from his best friend to the kids on the sidewalk. You know, those kids told their parents they were attacked by a vampire and that idiot Officer Thompson started asking my aunt all sorts of questions. If you will find out about me, about what I am. Oh, come on, Harry. I stepped in front of him, partially blocking Vlad's view of the receding fourth graders. Two were dressed as superheroes of some sort. The third wore the same cape that Vlad had on. It will be funny. Besides, if you don't do it, I'm totally telling Meredith that you like her. Henry turned away and wrapped his arms around himself. Henry turned away and wrapped his arms around himself, making kissing sounds. Vlad seated. Plaid seated, do not cool. The grin on Henry's face made it clear that he wasn't about to let a good gag go without a fight. With a shaking head, Plaid relented. If we get caught, you owe me big time. Henry beamed. And I did that without any of the special powers normally associated with best friends of the undead. Henry stepped to the side and Plaid moved past him, ducking through the tall bushes that lined the sidewalk. Plaid ran as quickly as he could until he stood half a block ahead of his customed victims. After shimmying up an old tree, the bark rough,